Are you concerned about your doctor moving abroad? Well, there's a rising trend of doctors relocating, and we're going to discuss it in this video. There's a recent article in NPR that was published in May of 2025 that is titled Why US Doctors Are Relocating to Canada. And the article summarizes that since the re-election of Donald Trump, there has been an increase of US trained doctors who have started seeking employment and licensing in Canada. Their motivations are not solely based on the political unrest right now, but also deal with concerns about rising hostility, violence, dissatisfaction with the US healthcare policies, and difficulty in being able to practice as true doctors. And so the article goes on to state that there has been a 300% increase in US trained doctors applying for licensing in Canada compared to the previous year of 2024. Ontario alone registered over 116 US applicants within the first months of 2025. And medical recruiters in Canada have reported a 65% rise in job inquiries from US physicians between January and April of 2025. So this article also interviewed a few doctors to get their opinion on the matter. Although they remained anonymous because of fear of blowback, they did express that some of them are ashamed to say that they're American given the current climate. Others expressed concern that US policies are directly clashing with the ethics of healthcare work, especially for marginalized patients. And there's even quotes where the doctors express that there is a desire to go where there's humanity and where healthcare is a human right and they can practice medicine and care for their patients. Now, this relocation and move abroad is not unique to physicians, but also professionals in academia, public health, as well as science are also exploring options of overseas. And many cite disillusionment with censorship, political polarization, and perceived crackdown on educational institutions. So, what are the major destinations for US doctors to seek licensing? Well, Canada happens to be the number one location for US doctors to seek licensing, having to do with proximity, as well as easier licensing for US trained doctors to receive their credentials, similar healthcare standards, fewer malpractice concerns, no private insurance middlemen, because as you know, Canada has universal health insurance, high demand for family medicine and rural physicians. So doctors are in demand and being invited by Canada and heavily recruited. And there's a more predictable work-life balance. Other countries include Australia and New Zealand, excellent work-life balance, high salaries, especially in Australia, generous vacation time, lower patient volume, less administrative hurdles, of course, the beauty and nature that both Australia and New Zealand offer, as well as English is the dominant language spoken in New Zealand, Australia, and Canada, which is why it is relatively easier for US doctors to relocate there and not have to worry about learning another language, which could be a barrier for other countries like Germany and the Netherlands, which are also actively recruiting US healthcare professionals. I did discuss that in a video. I would try to find it and link it for you. But it speaks about which countries are ideal for healthcare professionals if you're considering moving abroad and things that you have to think about in terms of your credentials. But most of these countries have been heavily recruiting doctors as well as elder care specialists because of their aging population. I'm speaking about Germany, the Netherlands, as well as Italy, really actively trying to get elder care practitioners and experts because of their high percentage of aging populations. So in terms of the article, whether or not it's actually true that these doctors are relocating based on political uncertainty and unrest, perhaps. But the relocation may also be driven by economics, career reasons, rather than politics. So although the article tries to bring home the point that political unrest and perhaps despondency with the current administration as a main reason why many of these doctors are relocating, I think the real reason is more nuanced and has to do with economic, lifestyle, career, being able to practice their craft, practice their expertise without dealing with insurance companies. I think all of that is also important to factor in not just what's happening politically, because doctors have been rather vocal about the difficulty in being able to practice medicine because of having to deal with administrative hurdles and insurance, dealing with insurance companies. So I think that despondency is growing and increasing as doctors become more experienced. They're just frustrated and don't see any improvement in the healthcare sector, and that having to be the driving force for many of them to relocate. But if you're a doctor listening to this, I would love for you to weigh in. Also, these countries offer a more predictable work-life balance, universal healthcare, again, so not having to deal with insurance policies and being able to actually spend your day treating patients and caring for patients. And so these countries have a lot of resources because a lot of resources dedicated to public funding the healthcare system, which is attractive regardless of political happenings. Some doctors may simply use politics as a socially acceptable narrative, but it could be more of a personal or professional decision. Also, the article mentions a mass exodus of doctors, but is this actually true? The actual numbers are relatively small in proportion to US physicians, which is around 1 million doctors. And the US still has the largest percentage of doctors in the world. So this 300% increase that the article mentioned sounds dramatic, but may reflect an increase from a very low baseline number of the year before, such as 30 doctors in 2024 compared to 116 doctors in 2025 actually applying for licensing. So a nominal amount. However, the loss of 116 doctors in one city or one state is significant. So whether or not the impact is dramatic, we don't know. Also, doctors have always migrated. And so this is not a response necessarily to the current administration. Doctors from the US have always relocated internationally, including Canada, because again, Canada has ideal licensing for US trained doctors and has proximity to the United States, as well as English as a dominant language. So there's low barriers for most doctors to choose Canada, and a lot of pluses for them to choose it as well. Also, US doctors still have a lot of advantages, which is why many doctors still remain and are able to practice in the US. The US doctors often enjoy higher pay, more autonomy, greater access to cutting edge technology and clinical research. And many continue to find deep purpose serving the underserved communities in the US as well. So whether or not the article is actually accurate and pointing toward the political unrest or is actually responding because there's so much going on with the Trump administration. And so it can grab attention by saying the doctors are leaving because of despondency or dissatisfaction with the Trump administration. But the answers may actually be leaning toward other issues that the doctors experience that have to do with more their profession and how they're able to practice medicine, as well as economics. And so let me know your thoughts. If you're concerned that there will be a mass exodus of doctors leaving the United States, I'll make sure I link the article. Let me know your opinion regarding that. Are you concerned? We have been in the US experiencing a healthcare crisis. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Healthcare workers are burned out. If you see on social media, you see more and more doctors and nurses expressing that they are just struggling with the overwhelmment of patients and not receiving the support from the hospitals and the facilities. Is this a concern with you regarding healthcare and accessing it in the United States? But fear not, I do have a medical tourism business that helps Americans who may not be able to get the access and healthcare that they deserve in the United States to receive it in Colombia. Colombia outranks the United States as well as Canada when it comes to healthcare, ranking at number 22. It is a medical tourism destination. If you are frustrated with the rigmarole and healthcare in the United States, for you to start thinking about the healthcare in Colombia is 60 to 70% less than what Americans are paying in the United States, but that does not mean the quality is not the gold standard. The healthcare is innovative, efficient, it is extensive, it's really robust. You can meet with specialists without having to deal with the rigmarole of insurance companies and referrals. And that's what makes Colombia the gold standard when it comes to healthcare, because the administrative seamlessness is really remarkable. You could see a radiologist, you could see a urologist, you can see a eye doctor all in one day, and the results are shared amongst the physicians with relative ease without delay. Results are Results from scans and blood work are provided within 24 hours. You receive it and your doctors receive it. So Colombia is really leading the pack in Latin America for its healthcare, and it's a medical hub for many Americans as well as Europeans and Australians that won't be able to access that healthcare in their country, and so relocate to travel to Colombia in order to be medical tourists. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know. The link for the company will be in the description box. As well, if you're considering moving abroad and you have no idea where to begin, then I invite you to work with me so we can develop a pathway for you to relocate. Many people want to move abroad, they have no idea where to begin. And so, working with someone like myself that irons out the details and tells you what your next step should be allows for less anxiety regarding moving abroad. So if that's something you're interested in, the link will be in the description box. Also, please follow up on my other videos where I discuss if you're in the US and you're concerned about Medicaid, what you need to be putting in place in order to make sure that your long-term care is provided for through Medicaid. I have extensive videos that walks you through your long-term planning so that you can make sure that you're Medicaid eligible. If you have any questions or comments regarding this video, please do share in the comment section, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.